gave the university authorities the finished constitution and said, now you have to recognize this union. And it was this union which then took the first major step to reshape the character of this university through a new admissions policy. Some of the traces of this admission policy may be still left, but much of it, I think, has been eroded, in which we ensured that the admissions in this university will be based on socio-economic backgrounds of students apart from their academic merit. And it was the first university, I think, in this country which not only took into account the economic background, the income background of the student, but also their social and gender background. So all this was sought to be done away with during the emergency. So Sitaram, as the president of the union, had the important task or responsibility to restore what had already become the character of this university before 1975 June. And I think it is this struggle which shaped his whole outlook about politics in India and about what sort of political life he would like to lead when he left this university. The second important aspect of his period of student activism in this university was that he acquired a Marxist background. He acquired a Marxist foundation through study of Marxism, learning about Marxism. It is also helped by the fact that where in his economics center or faculty, professors who were of a Marxist background, well-known, prominent Marxist and left economists. And it is this process of learning in the Communist Party here in India, we decided that we had to come out clearly in defense of Marxism and to counter the worldwide propaganda of the capitalist ruling circles that not only is Marxism dead, not only is socialism something of the past. To counter that propaganda, we had to assert through our scientific analysis, through our Marxist ideological understanding, that what has gone wrong with the application of socialism or Marxism in the Soviet Union does not mean a negation of Marxism-Leninism or the goal of socialism which can be pursued, learning from the mistakes made at the time, the later period of the Soviet Union. And it is to shape or to re-envision and rejuvenate the Marxist ideological understanding that Sitaram played a very important role at that time in our party when we had a major ideological discussion and an ideological resolution which was one of the first in the world among communist parties where we gave out a critical analysis of already existing socialism that was there, what were the achievements, what were the great advances, and what were the weaknesses or shortcomings and distortions that crept into the building of socialism in a country like the Soviet Union. And Sitaram piloted this resolution in our party congress in 1992. And not only did that help us, we were able to get many communist and socialist and workers' parties from around the world to come to India to have a discussion so that we could all come together for a fight back to defend Marxism, to defend the ideals of socialism. So Sitaram, from that point onwards, was not just a run-of-the-mill political worker or leader, but an outstanding Marxist ideologue. And this was recognized not only in our party, but it was recognized internationally by people who were not only in communist parties, but anybody who was interested in the cause of socialism and who were socialist or on the left side. So this is the second major aspect of Sitaram's political life. The third, flowing from this, is Sitaram was a political worker and a cadre and a leader of a political party in India. But unlike the non-left parties, he belonged to a party which also had an internationalist vision. We know that we are part of a contingent of working class parties which are there worldwide. And therefore Sitaram was from the beginning imbued with a deep anti-imperialist spirit. Of course, he came into politics in 1973-74 when the Vietnam War was more or less over. But the worldwide anti-imperialist movement against the American war in Vietnam, the big student movements and upsurges that had taken place, he was imbued with that spirit. He belonged to that generation of student leaders. So you would find that throughout his political life, Sitaram identified and participated in various activities to express solidarity with whichever progressive causes, liberation struggles against imperialism and colonialism. We are all seeing this horrific war on Gaza now, and the genocide being committed by Israel against the Palestinian people. But Sitaram had very strong links with the Palestinian liberation movement. He had been to the occupied West Bank not once, at least he has been there twice. We have been in close contact with the leadership of the Palestinian liberation movement, at that time led by Yasser Arafat. Sitaram has had direct relations with the Cuban Communist Party and the revolutionaries there, because they are in the front line of the attack by America against Cuba, which has waged a brutal war on Cuba through this economic blockade. For more than 60 years now, the United States of America has not allowed normal economic and trade ties for Cuba with the rest of the world. It's one thing for America to say we won't have trade or economic ties with Cuba, but America doesn't stop at that. It says we will punish anybody else, any other country, which has economic ties and trade with Cuba. So third countries, which say supply even medicines to Cuba, they are sanctioned by America. So in solidarity with Cuba, when we conducted a big movement in India, you cannot imagine the situation today in India, but I'm talking about 1993-94, after the Soviet collapse, when Cuba was completely isolated and blockaded, we sent a full shipload of wheat from India to Cuba, an entire shipload, more than 15,000 tons. And in the campaign to collect food grains and wheat, Sitaram played a very important role. And when Fidel Castro received that ship in that harbor and port in Havana, leaders of this solidarity campaign were there from India who had to receive the ship, and Fidel Castro directly thanked the people of India and the progressive force in India for this act of solidarity. So wherever there is a struggle against American imperialism, struggle against the Zionist aggression, or, as I said, during the Vietnam War, and later when America attacked Iraq and invaded Iraq, and all these issues, Sitaram, because he was also the head of the international department of our party, was always in the forefront to come out in support of the peoples of the various countries which stood firmly or fought against imperialism. So this was also part of his deep Marxist outlook, that whatever we are doing in India is part of a worldwide movement against imperialism and capitalist exploitation. Then, as I said, because he had this great capacity to apply Marxism to concrete conditions in India, he was one of the earliest to grasp and understand the nature of what is now known as Hindutva in our country. The most right reactionary phenomenon which emerged as a force in the 90s, particularly in the decade of the 90s and with the demolition of the Babri Masjid in Ayodhya. And Sitaram turned his attention to what is the RSS and what is its ideology, what it means. And he was the first to bring out a critique of Golwalkar's book, which is called We and Our Nationhood Defined, which was published, Golwalkar published it in 1939, and which gives you the true character and picture of what the RSS stands for. It's a book where Golwalkar admires Hitler's Germany, how they have dealt with the Jewish question, no problem, and says that we have to learn lessons for that in India from that. So later on it proved a bit embarrassing for the RSS. So that book could not be found anywhere. It wouldn't sell it. If you go to a RSS office and go to the publications counter, you can get all the books of, even Golwalkar wrote other books also, a bunch of thoughts, all that. But this book was not available. They withdrew it from circulation because it completely exposes what they want in India, what they want to do with the non-Hindus in India. So this book, Sitaram procured the original text of the book and wrote a critique of it, which was published as a booklet, finally by the Frontline magazine based in Chennai. They brought out this critique as a booklet, which if you read today, it has great resonance, because this is what the RSS believed in 1939, but what they're trying to put into practice after the BJP came to power in 2014. The BJP, the Modi government came to power. So it is this, his great understanding or deep understanding of what RSS and Hindutva stands for, its fascistic ideology and what it will mean for India if such a power comes to exercise the levers of state power in India. That is what impelled Sitaram or motivated Sitaram to go for a strategy and tactics of the Communist Party of India Marxist, which would lead to the widest unity against this threat posed by the RSS and the Hindutva forces. And that brings me to his final phase of his political life. Final phase means the last 1 decade. Out of the 50 years, the last 1 decade, which also coincided with his becoming the General Secretary of the party in 2015, 1 year after the Modi government came to power in 2014. So if you see that last from 2015 to now, 2024, little over 9 years, you will find that Sitaram was working towards creating a political mobilization which will include all the secular and democratic forces to build the broadest unity and mobilization against the BJP and the RSS. But doing that, he knew that this will be successful only if you have a strong left in the country, if you have a strong left force in the country. So he linked the fight against the Hindutva and BJP forces with the building of a strong left force in the country. The second part was that the left forces alone will not be able to do the job. You have to create an alternative. The goal cannot be just defeat the BJP or roll back the Hindutva offensive. What is the alternative? That alternative, he said, has to be an alternative which he called a left and democratic alternative, which will be the basis on which we can then go towards socialism. That is, socialism is the alternative, eventually. But the first step towards that is to rally all the left and democratic forces and create a strong united front of the left and democratic forces. And that alternative will be the real alternative to the BJP RSS dispensation that we have in this country. And it is because, and it is this vision of his that you see expressed when he was in Parliament. For 12 years he was a member of the Rajya Sabha for 2 terms. You will see most of that period his political interventions in Parliament were directed towards exposing what is the threat of this Hindutva authoritarianism, which has now become a full-fledged authoritarianism in our country. And how this Hindutva ideology is inherently antithetical or inimical to the broader religious faith which is Hinduism. How they've tried to utilize the religious sentiments and the religious faith of people to make it into a political project which is eventually the class character of the RSS and the BJP is that they want a corporate communal rule in this country. That what it means is that behind all this, finally, the real ruling class of this country, the big bourgeoisie, the big corporates, they are at their service. So that is why this is a corporate communal nexus which has been established in this country. And therefore the fight against this corporate communal nexus requires not only a fight against Hindutva, but also a fight against the neoliberal policies, the economic policies which the Modi government has been pursuing vigorously and in a more naked form than we have ever seen before. So it is this phase of Sitaram's life which most people remember, because he became, in that sense, he provided the ideological and political ballast, foundations for all these forces to come together. First, the battle was for the Lok Sabha election, the last Lok Sabha election which was held in our country a few months ago. You would have seen that the tributes paid to Sitaram after his death, most of them concentrated on this, that here's a man who could bring all forces together, who could make linkages with all leaders, who could try to bring all those together on a common basis, irrespective of our differences. But that capacity of Sitaram is because of the political vision he had. He recognized that though we are communists, we have very basic ideological and political differences with most of these parties, which are today, say, in the India bloc. What is required is to bring them together on a common minimum program, which is to roll back the Hindutva offensive, to push back all the anti-secular steps and policies that the government has imposed on the country, and thirdly, bring these people as far as possible together to target those forces behind this government, which is the main exploiters in our society, the big capitalists, the big corporates who have all rallied behind the BJP and the RSS. Recently, when Ratan Tata died, as you know, he is a very illustrious capitalist in our country. He received fulsome praise. But I said this earlier also, that in that sense, the Tata House has been one of the most secular business houses in this country. But even Ratan Tata in 2016 travelled to Nagpur to pay obeisance at the RSS headquarters at the Samadhi of Hedgewar and visit Mohan Bhagwat, and subsequently attended a number of RSS functions. That is, the big bourgeoisie in this country finally decided that we have to have a pact with Hindutva. That is how we will also be able to grow and benefit. So the fight Sitaram knew will not be ending and be successful only by inflicting an electoral defeat on the BJP. We have to go beyond that. We have to go towards an alternative vision of our society, alternative economic policies, and that can be only provided by the left and democratic forces in our country, which will eventually help us to go towards socialism. So this must not be forgotten, that when we pay tribute, those who are not on the left, those who are not in the camp of the left and democratic forces, they see great qualities in Sitaram Yechuri, which are very correct and relevant. But for us, we know that he was a committed Marxist, a committed revolutionary, and a committed socialist. And all his life he spent was dedicated towards achieving those goals. So when we commemorate his entire political life of 5 decades, there is something which you will all find relevant directly to your life, because you are studying in a university which produced a person like Sitaram Yechuri. Unlike me, I didn't become a political person in JNU. I had politics, that's why I came to JNU. See, but Sitaram derived his politics in JNU. He learnt his Marxism in JNU. So I think that is something all of you can look forward to, emulate, and hope to travel on the same path that he traveled. Thank you.